How's it going, everyone? Justin Smith here, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama. Today, we're going to take a look at the Crimson Tide's first practice, the footage that they provided. We're going to take a look at some of the things that stand out to us. This footage is via University of Alabama Athletics. We will have an opportunity to get out to see the Crimson Tide practice during this spring. We'll provide video from those practices. We did have an opportunity to see Keelon DeBoer's first press conference, and we're in attendance. We had an opportunity to ask him a couple of questions, so please sure to take a look at that particular press conference on our YouTube channel. And in this first video that they released to us, you're going to see a lot of different Alabama coaches wearing headsets, trying to basically get comfortable communicating. I think this is just practice. You want to communicate as much as possible just to get comfortable for when it is live game action, like Keelon DeBoer likes to say when the bullets are flying. So you see a lot of coaches with their headsets on. You see Kane Womack, the Crimson Tide's defense coordinator. Keelon DeBoer doesn't have a headset on, but you saw Freddie Roach, some other assistants. You also see the Crimson Tide's new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, and with Brian Ellis right now, the Alabama tight end coach. See both of them wearing headsets. Like I said, I think this is just great practice for them to effectively communicate ahead of the football season. And of course, with Ryan Grubb, he's going to have an opportunity to communicate with the Crimson Tide's quarterback, their eventual starting quarterback, whoever takes over as QB1 in Tuscaloosa. So it is always, I'm pretty sure it's always great to have practice and be able to communicate with those guys on the field. We see a lot of Ryan Grubb as he's make his official, I guess you say, kind of return to Tuscaloosa, joining the Crimson Tide as their new offensive coordinator. Then we get a look at the Crimson Tide's defensive backs working. See Xavier Mincy, the 6'3" cornerback, working. Cam Calhoun, one of the Crimson Tide's newest additions in the secondary. See Darius Morgan, one of the Crimson Tide's returning defensive backs. Xavier Brown, who I think could be one of the top cornerbacks in college football. So more of Cam Calhoun at number 9. And Dijon Lee, you see the long 6'3", possibly 6'4" type of defensive back working this particular drill. We can go back and rewind this defensive back section, just talk about some of the things that I see here. Like I said, to begin this particular look at these defensive backs, we see them working in coverage, flipping their hips. We see Xavier Mincy. We see, like I said, Cam Calhoun, the Utah transfer. And he's at the beginning of a lot of these lines. That's one of the things I was just taking note of. Darius Morgan got a lot of playing time as a freshman. Then you have Xavier Brown, Cam Calhoun again. It looks as if they are working a punt block drill almost, because they're coming out of a three-point stance and they're basically diving out with their hands. So basically looks as if they're knocking down a punt. And of course, you guys know defensive backs typically are not going to line up in a three-point stance unless it's like a punt situation. So that's the drill I think that they are working in this particular situation. Like I said, Cam Calhoun is in a lot of this, but also Dijon Lee, number 5, the freshman cornerback out of California, who a lot of Alabama fans are excited to see this spring as the Crimson Tide's defensive backs get some work here in this first spring practice for the Crimson Tide. Brayson Hubbard is a guy I think a lot of Alabama fans are excited about as well. We also take a look at the Crimson Tide's linebackers, some new guys. Nikhil Green, number 41. Also see 35 Abdul Sanders. He's a true freshman linebacker out of Mater Dei High School. Again, there's more Nikhil Green, a Colorado transfer. Luke Metz, a freshman, former 4-star linebacker. At, like I said, number 15 is another freshman, Duke Johnson, out of Georgia. So in this linebacker clip, we see a lot of new faces at linebacker, which is very, very important for the Crimson Tide, as we're going to continue to run these linebacker clips for you, because the Crimson Tide are a little bit thin at linebacker this particular spring, because Deontay Lawson is not set to be back until the fall. He said that previously. Justin Jefferson is limited in spring practice, so it's an opportunity for some young guys to really step up at the linebacker position. Guys like Luke Metz, like Duke Johnson, who are true freshmen, but also Nikhil Green, who was a standout at Colorado before entering the transfer portal, heading to Tuscaloosa. Abdul Sanders is in that situation as well. So linebacker is going to be a focal point for the Crimson Tide during the spring, possibly building some depth at the position. So you go scoop and score by Cam Calhoun as the defensive backs working scoop and score. We finally get to see the quarterbacks. Of course, the quarterback battle is just going to continue to be the talk of spring practice. So we see Austin Mack, Ty Simpson, and Keelon Russell throw the football a little bit for the first time in spring practice. We see Simpson's incredible release. I think that's one of the first things that really stands out about Ty Simpson is their release. We see Austin Mack putting some air on the football, and we also see Jaylen catching it. And then we see Keelon Russell, just that effortless release that he seems to just flick the football. It seems to go really far where he flicks it. So we take another look at Keelon Russell throwing the football. On his second throw, we actually see him hit Jaylen Mbakwe, who's wearing number 3, officially changing from defensive back to wide receiver. I think something that's really interesting about Jaylen Mbakwe going up and catch that football. As a wide receiver, he was typically a guy when he played wide receiver at Clay Chalkville High School who played more so on the ground. So I haven't seen a lot of Jaylen Mbakwe going up and catch the football. So it's really interesting to see him go up and catch the pass from Keelon Russell, the former 5-star quarterback. See Austin Mack throwing the football once again deep, putting some air on the ball, this time hitting Cole Adams, who used some concentration to bring it in. And then we're going to take a look at the tight end position, a position I think is also worth noting this spring. We're going to rewind this tight end clip a few times because I want to talk about a few different guys and talk about the tight end position in depth a little bit. In particular, number 88, the guy who starts his drill. He's 6'5", 256 pounds, a former 3-star recruit out of Butler, Alabama, Patrician Academy, a private school in the state. And he's a guy who was dominant at Patrician Academy. When I took a look at his high school film before the Crimson Tide even offered him, he was dominating, so physically dominant that I thought he was going to be an outside linebacker edge rusher at the next level, but the Crimson Tide offered him and they showed they liked him at tight end instead of being a defensive player rushing from the edge. And I think Jay Lindsey is a guy who like a lot of Alabama fans are going to want to be interested in during the spring because he is one of the Crimson Tide's only scholarship tight ends who's going to be participating in spring practice because the Crimson Tide lost the services of C.J. Dupree and Robbie Oots to the NFL. Both of those guys deciding to declare for the NFL draft at the end of the 2024 season. The Crimson Tide are returning Danny Lewis Jr., but he's out for the spring, which Ken DeBoer reported on Monday. The Crimson Tide also lost Ty Lockwood to the transfer portal. So Jay Lindsey is one of the guys who probably is going to get a little bit more shine during the spring because of those circumstances. So I will say keep your eyes out for number 88 at tight end for the Crimson Tide this spring. And then we can take a look at the Crimson Tide's wide receivers working on their releases off the line of scrimmage. We see Jeremy Bernard start off. Ryan Williams, who's really great at creating separation out of his release. Isaiah Horton, the Miami transfer wide receiver, also looks really smooth out of his release. Rico Scott as well. We see Jamarcus Shepard working the back pedal for those guys. We also see the Crimson Tide being able to work their physicality in these releases. Of course, when a defensive back is playing like Jamarcus Shepard is playing right now, you can run your release. You can get a clean release off of the line of scrimmage, but all the time is not that. What happens when a defensive back presses you? You're going to have to use your physicality to break from that press. You're going to see the Crimson Tide work that a little bit here with Jeremy Bernard here, basically getting his hands on the defensive back before the defensive back can get their hands on them to create some separation. You see Ryan Williams goes up and catches the football with one hand. See Rico Scott working the drill. Cole Adams as well, showing off some physicality and going up and get the football with one hand. So the Crimson Tide's wide receivers want to create separation off the line of scrimmage and also create separation with their route running ability during the 2025 football season. I think one of the more things to note when it comes to the wide receiver position as we can to continue to look at those guys is that the wide receiver room for the Crimson Tide is really stacked with a lot of potential and guys with a lot of experience compared to last season. Jeremy Bernard has a lot of experience. Rico Scott doesn't have as much, but Isaiah Horton has a lot of experience. Cole Adams has a decent amount of experience. Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, of course. So the Crimson Tide are returning a lot of experience, but they also have a lot of potential on the back end with Jaylen coming back, with some of those younger wide receivers like a guy like Isaiah Brooks or Bubba Hampton. So the wide receiver position is a position I think a lot of Alabama fans are really confident in heading into this spring session, and when it all wraps up on A-Day, when Alabama fans will have an opportunity to see the Crimson Tide in a modified spring game on April 12th. Now I'm going to take a look at the Crimson Tide's defensive line, starting with Tim Keenan, the veteran defensive lineman for the Crimson Tide. And there's a lot of high expectations for Tim Keelon. A lot of people think he can really improve his draft stock during the 2025 season. So he's a guy worth noting. We see Kelby Collins working as we're going to continue to rotate this defensive line footage for you guys. Jeremiah Beeman, look at the size of this guy. I mean, me and our producer here at Touch Alabama, John Peterson, was looking at this Beeman footage, and we were like shocked because we've seen so much of Beeman during his time at Parker High School, working with Coach Hill out of Birmingham and step-by-step sports training in Birmingham, Alabama. And he was about a 265-pound lineman coming out of high school. Now he's 312 pounds. He's a guy who continued to get more and more experience during the 2024 season. He played a lot in that Michigan game. So Jeremiah Beeman at 312 pounds looks to be one of the Crimson Tide's biggest interior defensive linemen. So he's a guy I think I would keep my eyes on during this spring. But like I said, we're going to continue to run this defensive line footage for you guys and just take a look at not only Jeremiah Beeman. We see some Keon Keeley here, Edric Hill, guys who have the potential to really make an impact for the Crimson Tide during this 2025 football season. Like I said, I think Keelon just has this great opportunity to continue to improve and just really improve his draft stock during this season. We see some of Kelby Collins in this video as number 17, as we're going to show you guys some more of Collins. When you take a look at Collins transferring from Florida to Alabama now, he's expected to play that bandit role, the role we see Jamarian Latham and LT Overton play. But I think his size and his ability to be physical and how athletic he has shown he can be in the past, I think he has the potential to be used in a couple of different spots along the Crimson Tide's defensive line, because with Jamarian Latham, with LT Overton lining up at that bandit role, you have to think that probably getting on the field is a little bit limited at that position, although we have seen the Crimson Tide's defense last season, that swarm defense, rotate a lot. So it will be interesting to see how Collins fits into it with Latham and Overton returning as experienced bandit defensive linemen for the Crimson Tide. And we wrap things up with the Crimson Tide's offensive line. We see the Crimson Tide starting center from last season, Parker Brasford, working at the center position. And we see that first group of seams, and I'm going to rewind it back for you guys a couple of times as well. We also see the second group working with Joseph Ionata at center. But in that first group, like I said, we see Parker Brasford working at center. We see Jaden Roberts, number 77, working at guard. We also see at the guard to the left side of Brasford, we see Gino Vandermart working at that particular guard position. In the second group, we see Ionata at center. We see 55, Rock Montgomery at guard. Also get to see a flash of number 50 working at tackle, which is Casey Poe in that second group. So we see some of the Crimson Tide's offensive line, at least this first group heading into the rest of the spring, with Vandermark, Brasford, and looks at Wilkin Formby is in that group as well at left tackle, because Caden Proctor is a guy who's a bit limited during the spring to non-contact. So it looks as if we see Wilkin Formby at that left tackle position. We will continue to monitor this throughout the spring to see how the Crimson Tide will adjust their offensive line and who will be this particular first group during the spring. They'll do it for this breakdown video. As always, I am Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you want to continue to get breakdowns like this on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube channel. We'll be here throughout the spring to break down the latest when it comes to the Alabama football program, going to a couple of practices, interviews with players, interviews with coaches. So please hit that subscribe button when you get an opportunity. Hit the notification bell too, so you can be notified when I drop content on our YouTube channel.